Alright guys, so this is the FRQ3 from the 2019 test, and I am not going to go through the whole thing because it's pretty extensive. I do want to just review with you briefly that it's about delimiters and what a delimiter is, and we talked about in math a delimiter is an open parentheses with a matching closed parentheses, and we talked about why this one is a valid mathematical expression while this one is not, and it is because the number of delimiters does not match. For instance, if I had another parenthesis, closed parentheses there, that would now be a valid mathematical expression. And it goes on to describe what an HTML delimiter is. And it says, in this question, you're going to write two methods of the delimiter class. And notice what it has for the delimiter class. It has two private strings representing an open delimiter and a closed delimiter, the ones that match so you can tell what's a beginning and what's an end. And here is the constructor method. It is written for you. It sets the value of open delimiter to something, and it sets the value of closed delimiter to something. And then the two methods that you need to write. This one says returns an array list. So here's the array list that's being returned of strings from the array tokens. Now what's being passed in is an array, a one-dimensional array of strings. Consider the tokens, and you'd have to look at the examples to tell what that means. And it's going to create this array list from the array list, from the array of tokens, and return the entire array list. The second method to be implemented is to see if the array list of delimiters, the one that was created right here, is a balanced a set of balanced delimiters. So that would allow you to tell whether an expression was a valid expression or not. And then it goes through the examples, and again, it does tell you there's something pretty important, so you definitely have to read the instructions pretty carefully. It does tell you that a string containing text and possibly delimiters has been split into tokens and stored in the array, one-dimensional array of strings called token. A token is either an open delimiter, a closed delimiter, or a substring that is not a delimiter. And this is where you're going to get the delimiter list. But I think I skipped over something pretty important here. I'm trying to find it. Might be up here. Oh, right here. There will only be one type of delimiter for each string. So when you get past the array of tokens, it's not like you're going to find multiple types of delimiters in that set of tokens. You will only find one type of delimiter, an open delimiter and closed delimiter. So you wouldn't have the HTML mixed in with the mathematical ones. So example 2, again, the open delimiter this, the closed delimiter is that. You're not going to find any other kind of delimiters in there, just substrings. So we're going to take a look at the canonical version of this, which is pretty straightforward. But again, here it gives you the signature of the method. And this tells you that you're going to have to return an array list, and you are receiving an array, a one-dimensional array. The name of the one-dimensional array that you're receiving is tokens. So in the canonical solution, which is right here, first thing they do is they create the array list of strings that's going to be returned. Remember, this says we're going to return an array list of strings. So the first thing we have to do is create the array list. Remember how you create array lists. You have to say array list, and in those angle brackets, the greater than, less than brackets, what type of objects are going to be stored in there. Give it a name, new array list of strings. The parentheses is what calls the constructor method. And they're using an enhanced for loop here, and they're using an enhanced for loop to traverse through the array of tokens. So this says for every string in the array tokens and we're going to pull out each string. That's what that str is. It retrieves the string, and now we're looking at the actual string. So that's why it says if str dot equals open delimiter or str dot equals closed delimiter. Now remember, since this is in the get delimiters or in the delimiters class, then it already has access to those private variables that I was looking for. So it knows it can access these open delimiter and closed delimiter, and that's what they're doing in the code right here, as they're saying if the current string equals, and the string is just the token, the substring piece, which is either just a substring or it's an open token, open delimiter, or a closed delimiter. So if it equals either an open delimiter or a closed delimiter, I'm going to add it to the array list name D. Now, how would you do that with a traditional for loop? You would do for int I equals 0, I less than tokens.length. Remember that length is an attribute in arrays, so dot length I++, and now you would do essentially the same thing, but you would have to actually access it using the array notation. So if tokens of I dot equals, and then the rest of it would be essentially the same, dot equals open delimiter or tokens of I dot equals closed delimiter. Because remember, if you're not using the enhanced for loop or the for each loop, you have to access each element of the array individually. So that's how it would change if you used a traditional for loop. And then for the part 2, where it actually now passes in the